My beloved child, there are moments in life when one feels halted at a crossroads with no signs in sight. All external noise falls silent, leaving only the echo of a sigh from the depths within. In such stillness, a quiet voice becomes unmistakably clear, not a sound from this world, but a call from the unseen. It is not a warning, nor a rebuke. It is an invitation from the one who has long been waiting for your return. Even before you realized you had gone astray, he knows every fleeting thought that crosses your mind, every anxious heartbeat, every question you dare not speak aloud. Nothing is hidden from his gaze, not even the worry veiled behind your forced smile. He does not come to judge you in your weakness, but to reveal that even when you believe you are standing alone in the darkness, he is gently and powerfully surrounding you with his presence. Perhaps you have passed through stifling moments when the weight in your soul felt inexplicable. Small talk no longer brings joy, and the plans you once pursued seem to have lost their allure. This is no ordinary weariness. It is a sign that your spirit is yearning for something deeper, a true connection, a rest that transcends circumstances. In that thirst, there is one who is quietly calling, "Be still and hear me." When you hear that voice, know this: you are not alone. No one else can call your name from the innermost place of your soul but the one who shaped you. In Psalm 139:1-3, the scriptures say, "O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar." These words were not only for those of ancient times, they are alive for you today. They affirm that no fear is too small. No sigh goes unnoticed. Everything within you is seen and deeply loved. The world relentlessly urges you to keep moving, to climb higher, to achieve more, but it does not teach you how to listen, how to be still. Meanwhile, the one who created you invites you into a sacred space where the outer noise fades and only one voice remains: "Return to me." It is in this stillness that you will discover something priceless. You do not have to become good enough to be loved. You have always been loved even before you knew it. Many spend their entire lives searching for something that will make them feel whole, yet cannot name what that is. They accumulate achievements, invest in relationships, and chase dreams only to find, one day, an emptiness that refuses to be filled. That void is not from a lack of material or emotional fulfillment, but from a deeper disconnection from the true source of life, like a branch severed from the vine. It may stay green for a while, but will eventually wither. So it is with the soul when it is not rooted in its Creator. It slowly loses its direction, even while everything on the outside seems intact. But the good news is this: the disconnection is not the end. The way back still exists. And even before you begin that journey, the one who made you is already drawing near. He does not wait at a distance for you to find the path. He is the path, John 14:6. Every longing in your heart, every tear you've swallowed in silence, is a sign that your soul is awakening to a higher reality. Not the anxious reality of this world, but a reality where you are fully known and still fully loved. You may carry wounds that others cannot see. You may have made choices in the past that brought self-condemnation. You may feel like you've been left out of the flow of goodness, as though blessings were meant only for others. But remember this: no one is beyond the reach of the one who is calling you. No failure is too great to stop the restoration he offers. No matter how far you've gone, you can return to the place where he has always been waiting. The restoration he brings is not like the fragile promises of man. It is healing wrapped in renewal. He does not merely patch the broken pieces, he creates something new, stronger, and more beautiful. In Isaiah 43:19, God declares, "Behold, I am doing a new thing, now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert." This verse is not poetic metaphor. It is a truth waiting to be embraced. There is no place too barren, no heart too dry, that his power cannot revive. But for that to happen, you must do something simple, yet profoundly brave. Stop and listen. Listen not just with your ears, but with your soul. Listen to the longing that has never quieted the steady cry for guidance. Listen for the whisper that does not come from within you, but from the one who has watched over every step, even the missteps. And when you do, you will realize this truth: he has never left you. Even in your loneliest hour, he was there, not accusing, not disappointed, but patiently waiting. His waiting is not weakness. It is the clearest sign of his love, a love that never forces but gently invites. He honors your freedom so that when you choose to return, it is a choice from the heart. And when you return, you will not meet a gaze of scorn, but open arms. You will not be interrogated about the past, but healed by a love that never changes. He sees not only where you are now, but who you are becoming. That is why he has never given up on you. Beneath the defenses, beneath the fear and past failures, there is someone waiting to rise, a person destined to live in the light, not the shadows. He has planted within you potentials you have yet to recognize, and now he is calling them to awaken. There is a profound truth every soul needs to hear again. Your worth does not come from what you do, but from the one who made you. In a world that demands proof, performance, and results, it is easy to believe that you matter only when you achieve. But the one calling you sees you differently, not through the lens of success or failure, but through the eyes of a father. He sees you not only in what you've been through, but in the love he has carried for you since before you were formed in the womb. The truth is, no one understands your journey like the one who ordained every step. He knows why certain doors closed, why some dreams remain unfulfilled. He sees the unspoken things, the lingering weariness, the fear of repeating old mistakes, the pressure to always keep it together, while the world demands you prove yourself. He simply calls you to rest, not a rest of apathy, but of trust that you do not have to strive to be loved. This is where true transformation begins. When you realize that you don't need to be worthy to be loved, but are loved in order to be changed, every burden begins to lift. You no longer have to manufacture your own worth, because it has already been assigned by your Creator. He is not shaken by your weakness, because his love is not based on perfection. It flows from who he is. God is love, 1 John 4:8. What makes him different is not only his power, but his closeness. He is not distant or indifferent. On the contrary, he walks quietly with you through seasons, even you don't understand. He hears not only your spoken prayers, but also the unformed ache of your heart, the sleepless nights, the forced smiles, the times you thought you were forgotten. None of it escaped his care. In those very moments, he was silently holding you, though you didn't know it, just like the true vine that Jesus spoke of in John 15. You are not meant to live disconnected, but to abide in Him. From that relationship, life flows, not from isolated efforts, but from a deep connection to the very source of your soul. When you abide in Him, something miraculous happens, peace that isn't tied to comfort, and hope that doesn't depend on others' voices, but on the sacred whisper within your heart, I am with you. And when you truly hear those words, not with your ears, but with your soul, a turning point begins. You are no longer driven by fear, but led by living faith. You stop chasing human approval and begin to live by heavenly affirmation. You learn what to hold, what to release, and where to go next. Clarity doesn't come from more information, but from deeper connection to the one who knows all things. From that moment on, something new will be birthed within you. Not a better version of yourself by society's standards, but a restoration of your true essence, the one He intended from the beginning. A person not defined by wounds, not limited by failure, and not bound by fear. A person who lives in true freedom, the freedom to love, to believe, to walk forward, unchained by the past. This freedom does not come from avoiding what has been, but from facing it under the light of forgiveness and grace. And if you are willing to continue walking in that relationship, you will increasingly realize that this is not a fleeting comfort, but a genuine transformation. Day by day, you will be renewed not by your own strength, but by His power. Each step, even the small ones, will become a part of the greater journey of restoration you were called into. And right there where you choose trust over fear is where goodness begins to sprout, even in lands that once seemed barren and dead. As you start to walk the path of returning to your divine origin, you will come to see that nothing in your past was wasted. The winding roads, the long silent seasons with no answers, the wounds you once wished to forget all, were within the allowance of the one who formed you. He does not cause pain, but He has the power to turn pain into seeds for a new harvest. What once brought you to tears will now stand as evidence of His miraculous keeping. Not everyone will understand the changes unfolding within you. Others may still look at you with the same old eyes that once saw only failure, weakness, or confusion. But what matters is not how they see you, but how He is redefining you. He does not label you by your mistakes, but by your purpose. He remembers you not for when you fell, but for the potential He placed within you from the very beginning. When you accept His invitation to return, you are not starting over, you are continuing from where you were interrupted, but now with new light, new guidance, and an identity no longer hidden. There is a shift happening, not loud, but unmistakable. It is when your mind begins to think differently. The things you used to worry about no longer control your emotions as they once did. The failures that once weighed on you like heavy stones now feel like mere pebbles on the path of restoration. You no longer define yourself by what has been lost, but by what is coming. It is in this process of transformation that you begin to relearn how to see life not with natural eyes, but from a spiritual perspective, where hope is not worn down by circumstance. And this is the truth you must hold on to. Nothing that has happened in your life is meaningless. No one can rob you of the place He has prepared unless you give it up yourself. Even if others have pushed you aside, the one who holds time can bring you back, not as someone who is behind, but as someone perfectly prepared for the moment. In Isaiah 62:22, there is a promise, I am the Lord, in its time I will hasten it. You do not need to force things into being. What you need is steadfast faith. Because the appointed time will not be late. You are not delayed. You are being equipped. And in this waiting season, all that is necessary is being added to you. Just as a potter does not shape in haste, the one who called you is shaping your life with patience and precision. He knows when to press down, when to lift up, when to add water, and when to pass you through fire. The fire does not come to destroy you, but to refine you. In the moments of greatest testing, remember, no soil is ever planted without first being broken, and you are being tilled to become more fertile for the great thing that is coming. Do not rush to see results, for it is in the process that inner character is formed. People may fixate on outcomes, but he cares about the journey where every step is a chance for you to become what he originally intended. No one matures in haste, and no one receives what is precious without passing through preparation. But take heart, no matter how rigorous the training. It is held within the framework of love, a love that is not weak, but strong enough to lead you to wholeness. That wholeness does not mean perfection by human standards. It is a spiritual state where your mind is no longer tossed by praise or criticism. In that place, you know who you are and who is leading you. You no longer need validation from others, for you have already been anointed and set apart by the Almighty. And when you move from that position, not in pride, but with assurance, the heavens will collaborate with you. Doors will open, opportunities will come, the right people will appear. But it all begins with your willingness to remain in His hand, even when nothing seems clear. This is the time for you not to be led by emotion, but grounded in truth. Truth does not shift with feelings, nor does it vanish when you are weary. Truth stands like a pillar in the storm, and that truth is this: you have been chosen. You are not lost. You are not late. You are not outside of grace. You are right where you need to be, in the process that He began, and which He Himself will complete. There is something your soul must relearn amid the world's noise. Silence is the space where heaven's voice is heard most clearly. When you pause, when you resist being swept into the current of busyness, that is when the divine begins to speak in ways you can discern. It may not be a booming voice or a dramatic sign, but rather deep impressions, gentle promptings, and seemingly simple thoughts that carry the power to redirect your life. It is in the quiet that He speaks of His plans not only for you, but through you to the world. He has not only redeemed your soul for your own peace, but so that His light might shine through you. But before you can bring the light outward, it must be ignited within. Perhaps you have endured long seasons of slander, misunderstanding, or even rejection from those you once trusted. Know this: your isolation was not accidental. It was a necessary phase for Him to work within your depths, to uproot the old and plant new seeds. Just as Moses had to leave Egypt and live in obscurity for 40 years before being called to lead, you too are walking a set-apart journey, not to be forgotten, but to be prepared, not to remain hidden forever, but to emerge at the right moment. In those seemingly purposeless silences, He is preparing your soul for something beyond imagination. Loneliness is not a sign of abandonment. It is the sacred space where your spirit is refined, where your heart learns to recognize the spiritual voice, and where the light within you has room to grow, undiluted by the noise of the world. Perhaps in the past, you tried to blend into circles that were never truly aligned with your calling. You may have felt the need to adjust yourself to fit into standards that didn't belong to you. But now, you are being called to stand apart, not in isolation, but in steadfastness, not to chase after human approval, but to learn how to live from divine affirmation. And when you begin to live from that place, a deep relief arrives. You no longer need to strive to be seen, because the one who saw you before anyone else ever knew you is already watching. That is why the waiting season is not a waste. It is the sacred space between the beginning and the fulfillment. In that space, He is building a firm foundation within you so that when the movement begins, you will not be swept away by temporary praise or fleeting temptations. He knows that if your soul is not rooted, even the good things He has prepared could become burdens. So He lays the groundwork before placing the first stone for your rising. He strengthens the inner being before entrusting you with the greater. And you must understand this: the preparation is not always pleasant. It may involve pruning, as in John 15, where Jesus speaks of Himself as the true vine and says that every fruitful branch will be pruned to bear even more fruit. Pruning does not mean rejection, it means preservation for growth. The rejections you've faced, the closed doors, the broken relationships, these are all forms of pruning, not meant to hurt you, but to clear the path for what truly belongs to you. What is no longer useful for the road ahead must be let go, even if it leaves you with temporary sorrow. You don't need to cling to what He is removing. Instead, learn to release with peace, because what leaves can never compare with what's coming. He doesn't take away to leave you empty, but to make space for something better, deeper, and more fitting. As you step into that sacred communion, you will realize He is not building your life based on what others say about you, but on what He has always known about you since before the foundation of the world. And what He knows is this: you are not as fragile as you once thought. You are not as broken as you feared. While others may only see the cracks, He sees the potential for restoration. While you wonder if you can go on, He has already seen you finish the race, not by your own strength, but by the sustaining presence of the divine. And if you are willing to receive everything that once drained, you will become the very material He uses to build something lasting. Once you've entered this inner re-establishment, you'll begin to notice everything around you starts to shift. Not because circumstances suddenly become easy, but because your vision is renewed. The things that once caused anxiety now appear small in the light of trust. What once made you hesitate, delay, or shrink back now becomes the very opportunity to walk forward with fresh courage. Not because you are strong in the worldly sense, but because you know the one walking with you never fails. His presence in your life is not a vague concept. It is a reality not measured by the senses, but discerned through faith, and that faith changes the rhythm of your days. It doesn't remove all hardship, but it brings a certainty that no hardship is wasted. You begin to see battles not as threats, but as training grounds for perseverance, endurance, and hope. As the Apostle Paul wrote in Romans 5:3-4, suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character. Hope. This hope is not the wishful thinking of the world. It is a deep conviction that what has been started will be completed, that the word spoken will not return void, and that the appointed time will arrive. No matter how unclear the present may seem, in that hope, your soul finds rest, no longer striving to control everything, no longer living in fear of the unknown, but learning to surrender each day to the guidance of the Wise One. When you begin to live from that place of true trust, a quiet miracle unfolds. You become radiant in a different way, not attractive by human standards, but compelling because of the peace flowing from within. Your eyes begin to view others with compassion rather than comparison. Your words begin to carry healing rather than criticism. Your presence becomes like a gentle stream passing through the dry places in others' lives. And this doesn't happen because of your own effort, but because His Spirit is at work through you. You don't need to raise your voice to be heard, nor portray perfection to be acknowledged. What He is doing within you will speak for itself through humility, sincerity, and kindness. Those who once doubted will not be able to deny the change. Those who once walked away may begin to wonder how you remain at peace in adversity. And those who seemed indifferent will begin to seek you out, not because you have all the answers, but because they sense something within you they've longed to find. This is part of why you were led through a season of consecration, not only for your own healing, but so you could become a living sign, a witness to grace, to restoration, to transforming power. Everything He's done in you is not just for you, but through you, that others might awaken. And this doesn't require perfection, only your willingness to walk forward with an honest heart. That is why you must not despise the journey you've walked. What once felt shattered has become testimony to His kindness. The places of disappointment have become stages where divine faithfulness is revealed. The things you once hid out of shame are now the very places where His restoring power shines through. In every way, you are being reshaped, not to return to who you were, but to step into what has never been before. And when you understand this, you'll realize no one else can carry the role you've been given. No one else can walk the path you're called to. No one else can reveal His glory in the unique way you are meant to. Because what you carry is not a replica, it is one of a kind. Woven from both the light and the darkness you have known, born out of silence, from kneeling in the night, from a calling only you could hear. And now, all of that is becoming a new symphony, not one that rises from bright stages, but from the deep place where He placed Himself in you. In every spiritual journey, there comes a moment when you must face an undeniable truth. Carrying old baggage no longer suits the road ahead. Not everything that helped you survive in the past can accompany you to the place where the divine is now leading. Some burdens feel like part of who you are, but are really only layers shaped by circumstance. Defense mechanisms born from hurt, hardness grown from fear, and relationships that have run dry yet linger from habit. All of these become obstacles if you are unwilling to release them. Letting go is not careless abandonment. It is the conscious act of a soul that has matured. It comes when you recognize that some things once good for a season have now become delays to what's greater. The one leading you is not trying to take from you, but to usher you into a deeper fullness. And so the true spiritual path is not only one that moves forward, but also inward into your own depths, where courage is required to confront what no longer brings life. This is the time to re-examine all that you're carrying, not through the lens of habit, but with the clarity of a heart being led by the Spirit. You must ask, does this still serve my sacred purpose? Does this relationship help build what He's doing within me? Does this mindset strengthen my faith or erode my hope? And if the answer is no, then the shedding is necessary. Not because you are cold, but because you are being honest. And more than that, because you honor the process being orchestrated by a hand wiser than your own. Once you accept the invitation to let go, what happens next will astonish you. The emptiness you feared would make you feel hollow becomes the sacred space where newness enters. It becomes the ground where fresh ideas form, where healthy connections find their way in, where spiritual sensitivity is restored. When you stop clinging to what has grown outdated, your hands are freed to receive what has always been meant for you, but never had the chance to come close. The lightness of mind does not come from ease, but from knowing you no longer carry what no longer serves. Letting go also means accepting that you cannot control everything. Part of the spiritual journey is learning to walk by faith, even when you don't have all the answers. There are things the divine chooses not to explain right away, not out of harshness, but because true understanding is birthed through trust, not analysis. Sometimes, what you're being asked to release is not material or relational, but the need to comprehend everything. You may be accustomed to analyzing, planning, preparing, but in this new journey, you're being taught to walk not by natural sight, but by the leading of a deeper light, the light within. From that place, you begin to walk not by your own strength. Each step is no longer heavy with the burden of control, but becomes light, propelled by faith. And it is in that lightness that you will witness something miraculous. The forces that once subtly resisted you begin to dissolve. Doors that once closed no longer wound you, but serve as evidence that the divine is protecting you from what is unnecessary. You are not meant to have every opportunity, but the right ones. And the right ones only come when you are willing to trust the process the divine is orchestrating, even when it surpasses your ability to understand. Just as Abraham was called to leave his homeland for a place he had never seen, yet obeyed, you too are being called to step away from the familiar. That obedience is not merely an action, but a posture of the heart. Though I don't understand it all, I will follow. It is in that obedience that power begins to move, not because you know the way, but because the one who goes before you is already preparing it. And with each step, you will be strengthened not to assert yourself, but to reveal that he is your source of life, your shelter, your constant compass in a shifting world. As you journey deeper into this path of inner transformation, you will come to realize that one essential quality is required to sustain you spiritually: steadfastness. Not a stubborn clinging to what is old, but an unwavering faithfulness to the one who leads. There will be days when you feel nothing, see no clear signs, hear no outward confirmation. Yet in those very days, steadfastness becomes a quiet voice within, whispering, I am still here. The plan is still unfolding. Oh, spiritual steadfastness is not forged in peaceful seasons. It is refined in the fires of trial, where you choose to believe before you see, to continue when the passion wanes, and to remain upright even when no one notices. It emerges when you reject easy detours that deviate from truth. It matures when you learn to say no to compromise in order to preserve your yes to the one who chose you. Most importantly, it does not depend on emotions, for emotions can shift, but truth remains unchanging. The truth is, you won't always feel close to the sacred. There will be times you feel dry. Prayers will feel silent. The pages of your sacred journal may no longer stir your heart the way they once did. This is not a sign that you've gone astray. It is a sign that you are stepping into maturity. Just as a child, learning to walk must gradually do so without always holding the parent's hand, your soul too must learn to sustain faith in the quiet, where the sacred presence is no longer felt, but still flows silently, ceaselessly. It is in the dry seasons that faith is truly established, no longer guided by sensation, but anchored in trust, no longer chasing after miracles, but walking steadily on promises. You'll find that the deepest truths rarely arrive in emotional highs, but in those moments when you choose not to give up, that is when your soul is built on rock, not sand, just as Jesus taught in Matthew 7:24-25. When the rain pours, when the storms rage, that house will not fall, for it is built on a firm foundation. Yet to maintain that steadfastness, you will need something the world rarely speaks of: spiritual discipline. Not rigid rules, but life-giving rhythms. It is the commitment to stay connected to the sacred, even when nothing seems to be changing. It is choosing to begin the day with quiet listening rather than noise, choosing to end the day with gratitude rather than complaint, learning to keep your mind from being crowded, so there's room for the gentle voice of the Spirit to speak. Discipline doesn't make divine love mechanical. On the contrary, it keeps the flame within from being extinguished by the winds of the times. It is a safeguard, not a shackle. It doesn't trap you in rigid patterns, but keeps you from being swept away by easy invitations. You are not called to live by society's drifting standards, but by the enduring standard of truth. And once that truth is planted in you, it must be tended through discipline so it can take root, grow, and bear fruit in its appointed season. But make no mistake, this discipline does not demand perfection. It calls for consistency. You won't always do everything flawlessly, but every time you return, every time you choose not to let your heart grow cold, you are reinforcing a deeper spiritual foundation. Consistency, even if small, has transformative power. Just as water droplets eventually shape stone, so every faithful act, every whispered prayer, every decision toward goodness, all of it is forming a life marked by true transformation. In that process, you will find moments of weariness. But weariness is not a sign of weak faith. It is the sign that you are genuinely investing spiritually. What matters is not that you are always strong, but that you know where to return when you are not. And that place is not your past accomplishments, but the ever-open presence of the one who never tires of keeping you. He does not expect you to always be ready, but he is always ready to welcome you back, even when all you can whisper is, "Help me go on." And there will come a point in your spiritual journey when you realize that steadfastness is not only the ability to endure difficulty, but the loyalty to your own process. In a world that rushes everything, where everything seems urgent and immediate, you are called to walk at a different rhythm, the rhythm of grace. That rhythm is not hurried but deep, not frantic but steady. It doesn't pressure you to follow the crowd's momentum, but invites you to slow down, to go deeper into your being, into the sacred presence, into an unshakable truth. In that rhythm, you will learn a precious lesson. Your worth is not measured by speed, but by depth. True maturity cannot be rushed. What is lasting takes time to root. And the one training your soul is not just preparing you to reach the destination, but shaping you into someone strong enough to carry what is being prepared for you. You are not called for fleeting success, but for enduring strength. That is why every day you walk in quiet faithfulness unseen. Without glory is laying a foundation in you that cannot be moved. This becomes even clearer as you begin to see you are not living only for yourself, The transformation happening in you is not a closed, private journey. It is part of something greater. There are people watching you silently, but truly, they are searching for something real, someone not perfect, but genuine, someone who doesn't pretend to be strong, yet remains steadfast, someone who dares to admit their wounds, yet does not give up hope. And you, without even knowing it, are becoming that person, a living testimony to the power of restoration. You don't need to do anything grand to be considered useful. All you need is to live truthfully, truthful to the one who leads you, truthful to yourself, and truthful to those around you. It is that very truth, that humility, that quiet faithfulness which truly touches others. In a world where people wear masks to be loved, you are invited to remove the disguise and reveal that weakness does not diminish value. It is simply a natural part of a journey that is being divinely guided. And in that journey, you are never alone, even when you can't always feel it. The sacred presence remains near, not as some vague supernatural force, but as a patient companion walking behind you when you are weary, beside you when you are lost, and ahead of you to lead when you can't find the way. He is not surprised by your delays. He is not discouraged by your hesitation. He is patient because he knows you are learning to trust, to walk, to live from the root of a transformed being. In fact, it is often in the moments when you feel weakest that he is closest, not to scold, but to lift, not to correct, but to embrace. And if you are still enough to listen, you will hear the quiet whisper of reassurance. I have never left you. These words are not cliches. They are pillars you can lean on when everything else seems to crack. They are promises untouched by time and unshaken by circumstance. They hold your soul steady, even when everything around you feels uncertain. And because of that promise, you are reminded of why you keep going, not to prove anything to anyone, but to live fully into the reason he called your name. You did not come into this world by accident. Your presence carries an irreplaceable imprint. What he desires to do through you, he does not intend to do through anyone else. So do not compare your journey to someone else's. Do not let their pace make you doubt your own rhythm. The only thing you are asked to do is remain faithful not to the outcome, but to each steady step placed in the sacred light, because in the end, no one is called to complete everything in a day, but each person is invited to take one step today. And if you step with trust, with obedience, with awareness of the presence, then what is being built within you will become part of something greater, more beautiful, more enduring than anything you could have imagined. Once your inner roots are firmly established, what happens outwardly in your life will begin to reflect that change. No longer will your days be a repetitive blur of confusion, but guided steps with purpose. You'll no longer be ruled by your circumstances, but begin to shape them with the renewed presence you now carry. Your inner peace won't be easily shaken by headlines, shows, or the reactions of others. You will walk with a gentle kind of power, quiet yet radiant, and it is that presence which begins to bring true transformation into your life. You will begin to notice that certain relationships gradually restructure themselves, not out of force, but because your inner frequency has shifted. As your inner vibration rises, that which no longer resonates will naturally fall away. Some people who were once close may grow distant not because you've grown cold, but because your soul has moved to a different rhythm. This shift may at times confuse or even grieve you, but you must understand, it is not a loss. but à raffinement. The divine is clearing space around you to prepare for connections that align with your new direction, because not everyone is meant to go with you into the next season. Some relationships were appointed only for the previous chapter, and if you try to hold on, they may become obstacles to what is coming. Just like Jonah was called to Nineveh, but boarded a ship going the opposite way. Not everyone on the same boat is meant to reach your destination. And when the wrong ships start to rock, you are not permitted to do what even God does, not cling to what was meant to leave. Yet remember, departure does not always mean separation and pain. When you keep a soft heart, when you release with forgiveness and peace, you are freeing both yourself and the other from a bond that has ceased to be life-giving. Some relationships are held together merely by habit, not by growth. He wants you to live in connection, not dependency. He wants you to learn to love unconditionally without sacrificing the clarity of your soul just to maintain physical closeness. That clarity of who you are and where you're being called is the foundation for a spiritually weighty life. And from that foundation, you will begin to see doors open, not because you forced them, but because He opens them in His timing. The beauty is this: the doors you once knocked on in vain will swing open effortlessly when you arrive at the right moment, with the right heart. For what comes from heaven does not require striving. It arrives when you are ready on the inside first, then outwardly. In the meantime, one important thing you must hold on to is gratitude. Not the kind that surfaces only when good things happen, but a posture of life where you perceive grace even in what seems random. When you learn to give thanks for what has not yet come, for the doors still closed, for the divine not yet, then you are honoring the wisdom of the one who leads. And that gratitude becomes a magnet for goodness, not as a reward, but as the natural outcome of a soul attuned to heaven's frequency. It is also then that you begin to see the physical manifestations of your inner change. New opportunities appear. Unexpected affirmations come from people you never anticipated. A quiet ease enters your decision-making, not because everything is simple, but because you are no longer distracted by self-doubt. You've learned to listen to intuition, the inner whisper that is unhurried yet unmistakable. You know when to move and when to wait. And here's the wonder: every time you walk in that quiet obedience, something is released within you and around you. That release may not come as some dramatic miracle, but as gentle shifts, a door opening at just the right time, a conversation that brings clarity, a stranger who appears as an answer to an old prayer. It's as though your life is syncing with a greater rhythm, the rhythm of heaven. And you begin to realize this isn't random luck, but the evidence of alignment. You're no longer living merely to receive blessings, you are becoming part of the blessing for others. When your inner life is aligned with the sacred, and that inner transformation begins to affect the outer world, you enter an entirely new season, not just of returning, but of reaching. This is when the one who leads you begins to reveal deeper layers of the purpose you were created for, no longer merely about personal healing or escaping darkness, but about living as a lamp placed on a stand to shine, to influence, to share what was sown into you during the quiet seasons. You don't need to be someone remarkable by worldly standards, because it is your sincerity, your stillness, and the way you face life with a spirit of restoration that will draw souls who are weary and seeking what is true. People won't be drawn to you because of worldly excellence, but because of a peace in you that cannot be faked. They'll come because they see in you a wisdom not taught by books, a compassion not born from logic, and a certainty unshaken by turmoil. That is the reflection of a soul that has passed through fire but was not consumed, has walked through storms but never lost its direction. Then you will begin to see that every single day carries a value far beyond the ordinary. Even a brief conversation can hold the power to set someone free. A timely act of kindness can become the moment that breaks the chains in someone's life. A seemingly simple word may be the long-awaited answer to a silent prayer that another has held in their heart for years. For the one who dwells within you is not limited to grand gatherings or spectacular miracles. He also moves through the smallest details and chooses to use you as a vessel for his gentle wisdom. Yet because of this, you must guard your heart with humility, for the more you are used, the more easily you may be deceived into thinking you are the source. In truth, you are but an earthen vessel, chosen not for perfection, but for willingness. As Paul wrote in 2 Corinthians 4-7, "But we have this treasure in jars of clay, to show that the surpassing power belongs to God and not to us." You are not the source, you are the conduit. And when you remain clear on that distinction, you will not grow weary, for you are not giving out what is yours, but transmitting what is from heaven. This humility will become your armor amid praise and the lure of recognition. It will keep your heart tender before the one who called you out of darkness into light. You will not be swayed by applause, nor shaken by rejection, for you no longer live to please man, but to fulfill that which was entrusted to you from eternity. Steadfastness comes when your worth is no longer measured by others' reactions, but by your own faithfulness to the inner calling. And there will come a time when you realize your influence is not confined to familiar relationships. Your words will cross geographical borders. Silent acts of faithfulness will bear fruit in hearts you never expected. That same God has a way of causing seeds you sow in secret to sprout in public, not for your glory, but as a testimony that He is the one moving through whomever He chooses, however He chooses, whenever He chooses. You will begin to see that coincidences are no longer random, meeting the right person at the right time, doors opening without your effort, seemingly unconnected events interweaving like threads of a pre-written design. These are the signs that you've entered the flow of divine purpose. No need to push, no need to grasp, just walk steadily, with trust, and step in alignment with His guidance. Everything else He will take care of. And if there are moments when you feel too small to do something great, remember this: the most powerful things in the unseen realm often begin in natural weakness. It was Moses' hesitance that became the ground God used to thunder before Pharaoh. It was Hannah's whispered prayers that opened the way for a prophet like Samuel. And it is you, with all your limitations, who is being used as an instrument of life. Not because you are skilled, but because He is faithful. Once you've stepped into a life restored and recognized your role in the spiritual flow, a deeper awareness will awaken within. Your presence on this earth is not just to survive, but to leave a mark, not one engraved on stone or inscribed in gold, but one etched deeply in hearts, in generations, in the quiet unfolding of goodness. Everything you've walked through, pain and victory alike, are no longer isolated memories, but woven into a living testimony of the faithfulness of the one who called you out of darkness into light. You will more clearly perceive that every day you live is a new page in a sacred manuscript. The small choices, the unnoticed kindness, the whispered prayers in the night, all are remembered. They are seeds silently taking root in the soil of eternity. And in the right season, those seeds will sprout, bloom, and bear fruit not only in your life but in the lives of those around you. even those you may never meet. For one who is restored is never restored for themselves alone, but to become a channel of life for others. There will come a time when you look back not with regret, but with gratitude. The stumbles, the seemingly hopeless seasons, the long days without direction will now come into focus like pieces of a grand mosaic. Not a single detail in your life was wasted. Even the things you once wished hadn't happened were used to teach you, refine you, and transform you from within, like gold refined by fire. It was the difficult seasons that helped you shed the false and preserve what is precious. Now, you can stand in the flow of life, not with pride, but with insight. You no longer need to seek validation, because you have been affirmed, no longer striving to stand out, because you know true worth comes from living in tune with the divine calling. And from that place, you can see others with eyes full of compassion, without judgment, bitterness, or envy, for you understand everyone carries their own story, and everyone wrestles with things unseen. With that understanding, you become a source of comfort, not through empty words, but through authentic presence. People will sense in you a quiet strength. They will come to you when they need a place to be heard without judgment. And every time you open your heart, every time you share what you've overcome, it is in that very moment that what once brought you pain becomes a source of healing for someone else. Your healed wounds become the bridge for others to cross their own valleys. You no longer live to avoid pain, but to carry within you a life that cannot be extinguished. A life not born of man, but of the one who declared, "I am the resurrection and the life," John 11:25. That life was given to you, not to be hidden, but to be given, not to be consumed in your time of need, but to be poured out when the sowing season begins. And now, that season has come. It is no longer the season of self-preservation, but of planting, not merely a season of personal restoration, but one of community transformation. You'll begin to see the dreams you once set aside come alive again, not to feed your ego, but to serve something greater than yourself. Talents you thought were buried will find ground in which to grow. Things you once believed you were not good enough to do will now open like doors, inviting you in. Not because you're more skilled, but because you've matured in obedience, and that obedience has brought you to the right place, at the right time, with the right posture. And then, in a moment of profound stillness, you will hear it not with your ears, but with your soul. Well done. Not praise from men, but affirmation from heaven. No trumpets, no applause. Just a deep peace, as though everything you've ever done, endured, given, surrendered, now holds meaning. And you will know you've been on the right path. Not perfect, but right. Not flashy, but steadfast. Not glorious, but fruitful. After a long season of obedience, perseverance, and renewal, you will enter your harvest, not as a surprise, but as an inevitable result. What was sown in tears will be reaped in songs of joy. The days of silent faithfulness, the unseen choices, the forgiveness you offered, even when you had the right to hold a grudge, all are remembered by the righteous one. And when the time comes, he will repay, not in the way you expect, but in ways far beyond what you imagined. For the reward from heaven is not measured by effort, but by the love of the one who rewards. You'll begin to notice the signs of a shift in season. What was once delayed will be released. buried desires will be breathed to life. A strong, undeniable sense will rise in your soul. This is my time. No longer a faint hope, but a deep conviction, as if every cell in your being is nodding in agreement with the divine will. It's not fleeting excitement, but alignment with a purpose that was always written. You are being positioned, right place, right time, and you know it is no accident. In that season, what you once prayed for will begin to take form, not because you demanded, but because you were destined to receive. And yet the remarkable thing is this: the blessings will not come merely to satisfy you, but to confirm that the one who promised is keeping his word. His faithfulness will be revealed in every open door, every restored connection, every need met in unexpected ways. And from within you will rise a profound emotion, not simply gratitude for what you've received, but a deep assurance that you were never forgotten. You will realize this: when the season of recompense comes, He will not merely return what was lost, He will render the losses powerless to limit your future. What was stolen will be restored in greater worth, not just in measure, but in quality. The relationships you once released for the sake of truth will be replaced with companions of sincerity. The opportunities you let go in obedience will be replaced with doors no man can shut. The dreams once silenced will now expand, and this time, nothing will stand in the way. But take note, the season of recompense is not for your personal gratification, but that you might become a source of blessing for many. What you receive is not an endpoint, but the means to enter a new sacred phase, where you not only receive, but also give, not just live to sustain yourself, but to influence others. And when you understand that you've been given to be a giver, the stream of grace will not run dry. For what keeps the waters flowing is not the reservoir, but the circulation. In this season, you'll witness a living spiritual principle. Whatever is offered with sincerity will birth something new in due time, and nothing surrendered in silence will be forgotten. The faith you've held quietly will become a public testimony. The times you chose silence over reaction will stand as proof of spiritual maturity. The hidden acts will become the foundation for what others will one day see. Nothing is wasted. Not a single moment is in vain. The justice of the One is unlike the justice of this world. He does not repay according to formulas, but according to the heart. He does not consult report cards, but looks for faithfulness. And once the appointed season arrives, no force can hold you back. The rumors, the misunderstandings, the years of delay all become the backdrop upon which the glory of the Restorer is revealed. For in His kingdom, no one walks through fire without coming out more radiant. No one passes through a dark season without carrying a stronger light. That moment is not a reward for those who never stumble, but a confirmation for those who rise each time they fall. He is not looking for the perfect, but for those who do not quit. And you, though there were times you felt weak, chose not to let go. Though you doubted, you stayed. Though you felt small and useless, you kept your faith. And now, you are stepping into a time when things will begin to unfold, not to boast, but to testify that grace is real. As you move deeper into the season of restoration, you will realize the reward is not merely the end of a journey, but the preparation for a greater chapter. What you receive is not just to soothe old wounds, but to equip you for a new mission. He does not bestow goodness just to make you happy, but to place you in a new position within His grand design. Therefore, every blessing in this season must be seen with discerning eyes. nothing is random. And every gift comes with responsibility. There will be moments when you're invited into doors you never dreamed of, not because you pursued them, but because He led you. Opportunities will arise. Invitations will be extended. People who once ignored you will now seek your counsel. You may feel overwhelmed, even unprepared, but remember, the prerequisite for being used is not perfection, but willingness. You've been through the training season, not in glamorous rehearsals, but in the hidden places where no one watched. And now, you're being called forth not to perform, but to serve. It is in this phase that you'll understand the crucial importance of spiritual discernment. Not everything that appears good comes from the light. Not every open door is meant to be walked through. Some invitations, though appealing, are actually distractions from your true calling. Some things that seem like rewards may, in truth, be hidden tests. Therefore, guard your heart from being enticed by false lights and always return to the question, Lord, is this from you? For you are not called to live by allure, but by confirmation. In those days, what will keep you from losing your way is your daily connection with the sacred presence, not just during dramatic moments, but in the ordinary rhythm of breath. Do not let the busy season steal the intimacy you once had with the one who restored you. When praises begin to rise, when success draws near, keep your heart close to the place where you once wept in prayer. Remember the nights you bowed in silence, the days when faith alone carried you forward. That memory will sustain you in the season of abundance, so you won't forget who the source is. And it is in that remembrance that you will become a guide without needing a title. Others will see in you a life that is steady, unmoved by success or failure, unchanged by shifting seasons. They will find in you a model not of pretense, but of authenticity, forged not in theory but in reality. And when they ask, how do you hold on to such peace? Your answer will not be cliches, but your lived journey, the places you thought you wouldn't survive, yet grace carried you through. You'll realize the new calling does not arrive with trumpets and banners, but in quietness. There will be no crown ceremony, no grand inauguration, but when you look back, you'll know the season has shifted. People will start seeking you for counsel, drawing peace from your presence as their anchor. And then, you will understand that what you once endured is now bearing fruit, not only for you, but for many others. Old pain becomes a bridge. Old tears become a stream. Old perseverance becomes a shade for weary souls. Yet at this very moment, you'll face a new kind of trial, the weariness that comes from constant pouring out. You may feel drained as more people come, as needs around you increase. And here you must learn a vital lesson. You are not called to be the source, but the distributor. You are not the river that generates water, but the pipe connected to the eternal source. Therefore, return to the secret place daily to be refilled. Do not try to give to others what you no longer carry within, because this calling cannot be sustained by human strength. It requires grace, not just to begin, but to endure. And that grace is reserved for the humble, those who never think they have arrived, but who still return daily with a whisper, Lord, I still need you. Living in such dependence is not weakness, but wisdom, for it is in divine dependence that you are continually renewed. And when you are renewed, you remain a flowing stream for others, never dry, never broken, never prideful, as you pass through the gates of restoration, as you reclaim what was once lost, and as you become a conduit of life for the thirsty, you are also being called into a deeper role, that of a spiritual legacy builder. For your mission is not merely to live rightly, but to leave an eternal imprint, not on reputation, but on human souls. What you choose today will become the influence of tomorrow. The way you live, the way you love, the way you stay faithful, all of it is silently carving out a path for others to walk. In a world where everything changes at lightning speed, where values are flipped upside down, a steadfast and clear life like yours becomes a true compass for others to recalibrate. No need for glamour, no need for titles, just faithfulness. All it takes is that you live truly, deeply, with the heart of one who knows they carry a great mission. For the world doesn't need more grand speeches, but people who live with substance, with light from within, a light not born from fleeting success, but from true connection with the eternal source of life. And from that place, you will teach not only through words, but through your very presence. The younger will come to ask, not because you have a degree, but because you live with weight. They will seek guidance, to understand how you endured trials, how you kept your heart free from bitterness, how you kept loving after betrayal, how you remained standing when everything collapsed. And in that moment, your testimony will not be a sermon, but a stream flowing from a truth-lived reality, unpolished, unhidden, only truth and grace, walking side by side. You too will be called to lift up those who seem to have given up. They will come with broken hearts, with faith grown cold, with questions like, is there still a chance for me? And you, having walked the road of restoration yourself, will say to them, yes, because I've been there too. And sometimes, a single word spoken at the right moment, a glance full of compassion, or an embrace without judgment can ignite a spark in someone's soul. That spark does not come from you, but from the one who lives within you. Yet because you have prepared your heart as a dwelling place for that light, he can pour through you without ceasing. However, as your influence begins to spread, you will face a new challenge: how to remain free from pride, how to continue living deeply when others begin to esteem you. This is where humility must become your weapon. You must not be seduced by outward glory, for you know what truly sustains you. It is not the applause, but the hours spent on your knees in secret, not the praises, but the quiet moments listening to the gentle whisper of the divine within. If you can hold on to that, you will not be shaken whether lifted up or cast aside. You will not be driven by fleeting emotions, nor exhausted by the need to prove your worth. For you will know, you no longer live to impress, but to impact, not to please others, but to fulfill the calling you've been given. And when you live with that clarity, your life will carry the power to transform the very atmosphere without noise, without promotion. True light needs no advertisement, it simply shines. Time will pass. Circumstances will shift. People will come and go in your life, but if you remain faithful to the mission you've received, then in the end, you will possess something no one can take away: the assurance within your soul that you have lived rightly, loved rightly, and believed rightly, and the legacy you leave behind will not be in what is seen, but in the lives that have been touched, the generations stirred, and the paths opened through your quiet footsteps. My child, it is for this very purpose that I have prepared you, not to make you stand out, but to make you unshakable, not to make you successful by worldly standards, but to make you a living witness of my faithfulness. And now, as you look back on the journey with all its losses, its tears, and its shadowed turns, you can smile and say, it all had meaning, for it was through those very things that you became who you are today. And the person you are today is already shaping the future of another generation. My child, the season of testing has passed. The days of confusion, the long nights without answers, the seasons where you walked only by faith, they have all served their purpose. Now, you stand in a new land, no longer in waiting, but in movement, no longer hidden in silence, but stepping out in authority, not human authority, but the authority commissioned from heaven. For I have seen your faithfulness. I have witnessed every tear, every silent prayer, every time you chose me over the easier path. And now I say this to you, you have overcome, not that you've completed all of life, but you have passed through a long season of training and preparation. Like gold refined by fire, like seeds germinated in the dark, you are now ready, not to start again, but to walk in confirmation. You no longer need to wonder if you are chosen, for I now affirm it. You are the one I have chosen, not because you were good enough, but because you surrendered, not because you were perfect, but because you did not retreat. You are no longer defined by wounds, but by the one who healed you, no longer living in fear of rejection, but standing firm in your establishment. This is no longer a season of trying to convince others to believe in you. It is a season of standing firm in what I have already spoken. Each step you now take does not need others' approval, only your obedience. For I am the one who makes the way, who places you where you belong, who lifts you up at the appointed time. Look back and you will see my hand in every step. The times you were pushed out turned out to be my protection. The rejections were my covering. The things that didn't work out were my way of keeping you in rhythm. If every door you knocked on had opened, you would have long gone astray. But I blocked them not to punish, but to direct, not to hurt, but to bring you where you truly belong. And now, everything begins to align like a complete picture. The scattered fragments are coming together, and you will realize nothing was meaningless. From this moment, you walk with a new kind of understanding, not merely knowledge, but wisdom born of experience. You've learned how to listen, how to discern, how to wait, and how to act in due season. You no longer rush, nor do you delay, for you have learned the language of the Spirit, not a language of words, but of deep inner leading. You hear my voice with clarity now, for you have learned to be still. And in that stillness, you distinguish my voice from among the multitude. That steadiness will make you stand out, not because you seek attention, but because it is the natural fruit of nearness. Others will see your stability and hunger for it. They won't understand how you remain calm in chaos, how you still believe when everything seems to fall apart, and you will have one answer, because I know who He is. That is what anchors you, not knowledge, not strategy, but a living relationship with the one who called you by name. And that truth will be the rock you stand on, even when everything else is shaking. But for this very reason, you will now face something new, spiritual pressure, because the enemy of your soul cannot stop you from being blessed. It will seek to derail you after you've been established. It will try to keep you busy doing for God while neglecting being with God. It will try to convince you that you must maintain an image, protect a status, satisfy expectations when the only thing I ask of you is, abide in me. And if you remember that, you will not burn out. You will not wither under the weight. You will know when to rest, when to pause, when to say no. For one who is established has no need to strive to prove anything. They simply live authentically, deeply, and in the flow of grace. When I say you have overcome, I am also saying, now is the time for you to walk lightly, not because everything will be easy, but because the burden is no longer yours alone. My child, do not be afraid. The days ahead will bring new challenges, but they will also bring greater glory. Do not let the movement around you make you question what I've spoken. If I have established you, no force can uproot you. If I have opened the way, no one can close it. Keep your heart anchored in trust, not blind trust, but one built on the faithfulness I've shown you throughout the journey. And you will see, not one word of mine will fall to the ground without being fulfilled. After establishing you on a foundation of faithfulness and humility, now I call you into a new level of partnership, not just as one who follows my lead, but as one who walks with me in my redemptive plan for humanity. This is no longer a season for experimental steps, but a time for decisive and precise movement. You have learned to listen, now I call you to speak. You have learned to wait, now I call you to act. Not because you are sufficient, but because I am ready to reveal my fullness through you. What I entrust to you in this season will not resemble what you've known before. It will not merely require natural ability, but a life drawn from the supernatural. For what I will do through you will go beyond conventional understanding. You will find yourself placed in situations without clear formulas, where only the direct leading of the Holy Spirit will be enough to make decisions. I do not need a robot to carry out commands, but a friend, a companion who knows how to listen to my heart, who senses the timing of my action, and who remains silent when I have not spoken. To operate at that level, you must keep your spirit sensitive, unhindered by public opinion, untouched by surface-level religion. For I do not repeat the old ways. I am doing a new thing. And to recognize that new thing, you cannot rely on memories of the former season. You must learn to release how I acted then, so as not to limit how I am acting now. Scripture says, "For all who are led by the Spirit of God are children of God." Romans 8:14. I am inviting you to be more than a believer, to be one who lives in the living flow of the Spirit. Each day, moment by moment, you will begin to see more clearly that many doors are opened, not for you to enter alone, but so that you may carry light to others. Many events that seemed coincidental are in fact divinely orchestrated so that you may become a catalyst for transformation. For some, a single word from you, a timely presence, a sincere understanding, that alone is enough to lift them from the depths. And I myself will reveal to you who is in need of such a touch, when the time is right to act, and where the boundaries are that you must not cross. For true wisdom does not come from zeal, but from discerning my will. You will also begin to see a form of influence that is hidden from the public eye, yet profoundly far-reaching the influence through intercession. In this time, I am seeking those who do not merely speak with me, but who carry my burden. You will find yourself awakened in hours when no one else is awake, stirred to pray for a person, a land, or a specific circumstance. You will not always understand the reason, but you will know deeply that it is I who am inviting you to act in the unseen realm, to bring forth visible outcomes. This is the most powerful weapon of the mature, knowing that prayer is not mere pleading, but sacred action. In this season, I will also unveil the layers behind events, not just the surface, but the spiritual roots beneath them. You will discern what is psychological warfare and what is spiritual battle. You will not be swayed by outward appearances, for you have learned to see with spiritual eyes. You will not panic at social shifts, because you know that before anything occurs in the natural realm, a deeper movement has already taken place in the spirit, and this will cause you to live with a peace that defies reason, not because all is calm, but because you know, I hold all things in my hands. But remember, as you begin to live and act at a broader level of influence, the level of resistance will also increase. You will not be exempt from misunderstanding, from opposition, even from those you once trusted. Yet you need not defend yourself. I will do that. You only need to keep your heart upright, refusing to allow bitterness to take root. For what renders a vessel useless is not the attack from without, but the contamination from within. If you keep your heart pure, I can continue to pour through you without hindrance. And then, as you obey fully, you will witness a wondrous thing. The very things you once prayed for will begin to find you without your striving. The support, the companionship, the provision, all will come naturally, as if heaven and earth conspire to uphold you. For this is what happens when one lives in alignment with heaven's will. Everything begins to flow, not because there is no battle, but because in the battle, you know you are not fighting alone. My child, I now speak to you as a father speaks to a mature son. You have passed through seasons of testing. You have stood firm in dark times, and you did not retreat when it would have been easiest to give up. Therefore, I place upon you a fresh anointing, not to make you prominent, but to make you effective. From this moment on, everything you have learned, all you have endured, every lesson that once seemed small, will begin to converge into a steady stream. This stream will not only refresh your own soul, but will water the barren places around you. It is no longer the time to remain hidden, but the time to rise. No longer the season of laying foundations, but of building the house. I have not called you merely to preserve yourself, but to build for a new generation those who are seeking direction, who long for a true word amidst the noise. I have placed within your heart what that generation needs, not eloquent words, but a life that has been refined, and you will see, because you did not chase after the spotlight. Now the light of heaven will shine through you more clearly than ever. People will look at you and say, "This one is different." They will not be able to explain why, but deep within, they will know that you carry something not of this world, not because you are perfect, but because you carry real presence, not because you know much, but because you walk in love, and it is that love, a love refined through suffering, tested through heaven's silence, that will make your words weighty and your actions fruitful. This is also the time I will bring you to people you never thought you would meet. Not so you would feel important, but so you would understand influence is not measured by fame, but by obedience. There will be people you meet only once, but the word you speak in that moment will alter their life's course forever. There will be places you only pass through briefly. Yet your presence will shift the atmosphere because you carry not theory, but life. I call you to live a life that carries life. Do not be drawn into the standards of man to do more, to know more, to appear strong. The only things you need are truth in your heart and my presence in your spirit. If you hold on to that, you will not only fulfill your calling, but live with a deep satisfaction, a satisfaction not born from visible results, but from the knowing, I have lived rightly. And that, my child, is more precious than any praise from human lips. But before you move forward, I invite you to pause, not to retreat, but to remember. Look back on the journey you have walked. Remember the places I pulled you from. Recall what I taught you in the silence. Remember the times I came not with miracles, but with gentle comfort in the night. These memories are not to overwhelm you with emotion, but to anchor you when tomorrow turns to chaos. For sacred memory is the anchor of the soul, and your soul will need it to never forget who is the source of all things. And now, I want you to know one more thing, something that will hold you when all else falls apart. You are mine. Nothing in your life from glory to failure can change that. No one can take away your belonging. No circumstance is strong enough to sever you from my love. Though you are weak, though you stumble, though you are still lacking, my love is unwavering. And you will find, when you have nothing left to offer, that love is still the place where you can fall, not condemned, not cast aside, but embraced as you were in the beginning. Now, my child, I send you forth not with burden, but with lightness, not with pressure, but with anointing. Walk as one who has been positioned, as one who carries light not of their own. Love as if there is no tomorrow. Speak as if every word is life. Live as if you are a living testimony of an unchanging God. And when that day comes, the day you return, you will not come with empty hands. You will come with eyes full of light, a heart at peace, and a quiet smile. For you will know, I have lived as my Father desired. I thank you for receiving this message today. Please click subscribe and turn on notifications so we can continue receiving the living word together, building firm faith and walking in the boundless love of God. Amen.